This is the first of a two-part video series that will look at the Badi calendar, the calendar introduced by the central figures of the Baha'i faith. Hello, I'm Shiva.
And I'm Baha'i.
And in this video, we will be looking at how the Baha'i New Year, or Nowruz, is established, as its date is the basis for how the rest of the Badi calendar is calculated.
In the 10th of July 2014 letter, the Universal House of Justice wrote, "The setting of the sun on the 20th of March 2015 will signalize the end of the year 171, the close of the 9th Vahed of the first Kulishai of the Baha'i era. We call upon the Baha'is of the East and West to adopt, on that auspicious occasion, the provisions that will unite them in the common implementation of the Badi calendar."
So the Baha'is of the world have been asked to adopt the provisions that will unite them in implementing the Badi calendar. We are going to see what those provisions are.
The Baha'i community has been using the Badi calendar for a long time, and the fundamental aspects of it, like it begins at Nowruz and has 19 months of 19 days, isn't changing. But some of the details are, such as setting the date of Nowruz, clearing up some discrepancies in the dates of the holy days, and specifics around the birth of the Bab and Baha'u'llah.
So in order to implement the Badi calendar in a universal manner, we first need to understand what makes up a Badi year.
The Badi calendar is a solar calendar, which means it's based on how long it takes the Earth to complete one orbit of the Sun. One way of measuring an orbit is by first establishing what is called an equinox. Equinox literally means equal night, because during the equinox, the length of the day and night are approximately the same all over the world. It is the moment when the sun is directly above the Earth's equator. This happens twice a year, in spring and in autumn. So we can accurately measure a year as the period from one equinox to the next.
By this definition, a year is 365.242 days long. Now, working with fractions of days is pretty inconvenient, which is why calendars tend to use whole numbers of days. As mentioned before, the Gregorian calendar is 365 days long, most of the time. It adds an extra day every fourth year, called a leap year, to accommodate for the additional 0.242 days that build up each year.
Although this calendar is easy to use, it means that the equinox doesn't always fall on the same day each year. The Northern Hemisphere spring equinox may fall as early as March 19th or as late as March 22nd.
And this is a challenge because in the Kitab-e-Aqdas, Baha'u'llah has stated, "The festival of Nowruz falleth on the day that the sun entereth the sign of Aries, even should this occur no more than 1 minute before sunset."
This is referring to the Northern Hemisphere spring equinox. What it means is that in the Badi calendar, Nowruz will always be the day that the equinox happens on. This is a much more astronomically consistent way of figuring out when the year begins than the Gregorian calendar.
This does give rise to a practical problem, however. Imagine the equinox is happening right now, and we are looking down on the Earth from space. In this example, the sun has already set on New Zealand, Australia, Asia, and parts of Africa and Europe, meaning a new day has already started there, but it is still daytime over the rest of Africa and Europe and the Americas, meaning it is still the previous day there. We need a universal reference point to know which day Nowruz is, so that the whole world can celebrate it on the same day.
This is exactly what the Universal House of Justice has done. We have decided that Tehran, the birthplace of the Abha beauty, will be the spot on the Earth that will serve as the standard for determining, by means of astronomical computations from reliable sources, the moment of the vernal equinox in the Northern Hemisphere, and thereby the day of Nowruz for the Baha'i world.
So whatever day it is when Tehran experiences the Northern Hemisphere vernal or spring equinox is when Nowruz occurs. This is the most important part of the calendar to have been figured out, because now that the date has been set for Nowruz, we can work out the rest of the calendar. The 19 days before Nowruz will be the month of Allah, the month of fasting. The day of Nowruz and the following 341 days make up the other 18 months of the calendar, and the 4 or 5 days left over just before the month of fasting are Ayyamaha.
This has a couple of important practical outcomes. One is that the fast will always be 19 days long, no matter what the equivalent day is in the Gregorian calendar. For example, there will be some years when the equinox, and therefore Nowruz, occurs on March 20th. In those years, the fast will start on March 1st. In some years, the equinox will fall on March 21st. In that case, the fast will start on March 2nd.
Another practical outcome is that Ayyamaha will be 4 days long some years and 5 days long others, depending upon the date of Nowruz. And it won't necessarily be 5 days long in a Gregorian leap year, which is how Baha'is in the Western countries up until now have been celebrating it. It will depend on when Nowruz is, not on whether the Gregorian calendar has a leap year or not.
Luckily, we don't have to remember all these details. The Baha'i World Center has published a document showing the dates of Nowruz and Ayyamiha along with all the holy days and the first days of Baha'i months for the next 50 years.
If you have not seen this, your local spiritual assembly will have access to it and can share it with you. So in summary, the Badi calendar is based on Nowruz, and Nowruz is the day that Tehran witnesses the Northern Hemisphere spring equinox, no matter what the date is in other calendars. Once this has been determined, the dates of all Baha'i feasts, holy days, and Ayyamaha can be established.
In the next video, we'll see that the Universal House of Justice has corrected some discrepancies regarding the dates of holy days, and we will look at the special conditions associated with the dates of the birth of the Bab and Baha'u'llah.